So what's going on, guys? It's Captain America. Hope you guys are well, and thank you so much for coming onto this video. So for this one, again, starting off as always with the match stats. So for this game we did win 5-0, a very strong dominating performance from the boys. We had 51% possession with 11 shots in total compared to the opposition who only had 5. For my side of things, I had a 7.6 match rating. I was playing as a central defensive midfielder. I had 15 passes completed at 80%. I had 15 dribbles at 87%, 4 possession won and then 3 possession lost, especially as a central defensive midfielder trying to retrieve the balls and everything like that. With our style of play, as mentioned in my previous videos, we do play quick counter-attack and high-pressing football. We do press as much as we can during the game, just to make sure that, we can retrieve the ball fast or just have the opposition make a mistake where we could just counter as quickly as possible. With the game itself, we did score 5 good goals. The first one coming from Gergen, it was in the near post that he scored. And then the second one from Kane with the counter-attack, simple football with the goalkeeper coming outside of the box and then a lob over, which was a great little goal from him. And then the third goal, again, Gergen passing to King in the box and then scoring. And then we had Begovic scoring a very, he was trying to cross it in, but it was a deflected goal past the AI defender, which then went past the goalkeeper. So again, let's say generally a good goal for that one. And then the fifth goal from Khalil, the GOAT, lobbed the goalkeeper from outside of the box again. So, we did score 2 lobbed goals. The goalkeeper was being moved by the opposition, but again, that's their fault. They did nearly have a full human team, similar to us as well. We didn't have 2 centre-backs, but again, a very strong performance from the boys. Very pleased on how we performed, and I was playing more as a central defensive midfielder yesterday as we were trialling out different number of players for different positions, just seeing who would work out well for whichever position was available. So I will be posting in the next couple of days more central defensive midfielder positions and then reverting back hopefully as a centre-back. But my general thoughts as a central defensive midfielder, I didn't really mind playing in this position. The way I was playing over the past games was okay. Some of the matches were great as well, especially with the defensive tackles I was making. And just being that presence and passing and operating and leading that, let's say, midfield line and just progressing the ball forward as much as we can. And just enjoy the game. And as mentioned, what we're going to be discussing today is just really around, I wanted to talk about Leicester City because I was reading an article about them and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. But before we go over to Leicester City and their analysis and where I feel that they're going to be positioned for the next season and rumours for their players as well as transfer activity in general, I was watching this really cool video of Dybala, who's made the move from Juve to Roma. And he was doing his, when they come up as the new signing and they do presentations, and it was a case where he was on stage, he was seated, he was literally sitting down, and there was just Roma fans just singing and celebrating, and he was just taking on board the vibe and just the atmosphere that he's going to expect, not just from what you saw there, but on the stadium itself too. Roma is one of those clubs similar to like the other Italian clubs where they are very die-hard fans, and especially the atmosphere that you get is just always going to be insane for Roma. So I think that's going to be a great move for him. But do check out that video. It's just on YouTube. Just check it out. Dybala. I always say Dybala. Dybala's, opening, ceremony within Roma, and you're going to just see how awesome it was. It was a cool little vibe, and I think for him it must have been like something to take in on board and, something down memory lane, because it's just something that I don't think he's witnessed before. But that just goes to show how, die-hard fans they are and the supporters within the Italian league. And we know this already, whenever they are like playing and competing against the Classicos or wherever the case is, very, very passionate fans. So, touche to that. So hopefully, fingers crossed that he does have a good career within Roma. He's always been one of those players that's been rumoured for the likes of Barca, for Man United, but for him to stay in the Italian league with Roma, Mourinho doing a good job with them and the acquisitions that he's made so far. So it's attracting a lot of attention, Roma. So no, GG's to him. But yeah, guys, I wanted to really talk around in today's topic. I know I've done an analysis on the likes of Liverpool yesterday. I did Arsenal, I've done Chelsea, I've done United, Man City. I will do an analysis on them and where I feel their positionings will be within the competition side of things, the transfers and my personal ratings and opinions on those. And yeah, just generally everything about Man City. So maybe I'll discuss that sometime this week for sure, because they're playing against Liverpool in the Community Shield. and I want to just give my predictions on that as well and how the match will go. But no, we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, diving into Leicester, and you know, there was an article I was reading about Leicester yesterday, and it was a case where they said that Leicester City are the only team in Europe in the top 7 divisions to not yet make a signing or sign a player during this summer. You know, that's some, you know, feat, let's say, in terms of not being able to sign or being interested in signing a player. You know, as we know, last year Leicester had a number of injuries, long-term injuries, which unfortunately did hold him back. So we had, you know, unfortunately the likes of Fofana, we had Justin James, we had Johnny Evans, we had Pereira, we had Ndidi. All of these guys missing a large proportion of Leicester City's, you know, matches last season. And it was just unfortunate as well because they did make some key signings last year to strengthen up the team, such as like Daka, for example. But again, it's a case where, you know, they got Daka, but he didn't perform well whenever Vardy was out. Even with Iheanacho as well, them two lining up wasn't a great, let's say, combination. But of course, you know, Vardy, when he did return, of course, he's a Vardy and fantastic player as he is, regardless of whenever he plays. He does score goals, and, you know, he did bring them back into the 8th position that, you know, they finished with in the Premier League. But again, you know, these signings that they made in 2021... You know, they got Daka, they got Soumani, they had Vestergaard, they had Ryan Bertrand. You know, these signings should have done some, let's say, they should have done better, in my opinion. You know, embedding themselves and competing, especially with these injured players out, and showing, you know, as an individual player that they can, you know, fall right in within the Leicester City, let's say, team, and, you know, play as they should. You know, Vestergaard has been fantastic for Southampton over the past seasons. Same with Ryan Bertrand. You know, unfortunately, Ryan Bertrand is aging, so he's not as great as a fullback that he was. You know, Daka, for example, has come from Salzburg. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, you know, Red Bull, regardless if it's Salzburg, if it's Leipzig, or even like the American team, these guys, for some reason, have very, very good youth policy and youth bringing and individually great players. And, you know, we do see, you know, clubs signing players from these clubs at extortionate rates because of the value and the play style that these guys do. And what I find really cool from these clubs is that they move players into club-wise within this Red Bull side of things. So, for example, the Red Bull in US, they have, let's say, individual players. One of them was Aronson. He did move across to, I think, Salzburg or Leipzig, one of them. But again, these individual players move into club within these Red Bull side of things. So, for me, it's a case where, of course, the American club is like third fiddle. Then Salzburg, being in Austria, is like the second tier type of level. And then the top tier is, of course, Leipzig being in the German league. And as we've seen as well, they've always been competing or, you know, doing the best that they can to compete in like the top 4 or even in the Bundesliga, you know, to win the Bundesliga as such. So, no, I think, you know, in terms of Daka, I think it was a promising signing. It's just unfortunate that he hasn't really done well. But, you know, with the return of a lot of the key players out injured for Leicester City last season, as mentioned, for a large chunk as well, you've got really prime players that we're talking about, such as Fofana. You know, he's being rumoured to go to Chelsea, especially with Chelsea losing out to now Koundé. You know, it's a funny situation because with Koundé, they did agree to, like, contractual terms, personal terms as well, and it was a better offer than Barcelona could offer. But Barcelona, somehow, this broke debt, you know, financially broke club, has somehow looks very likely to have secured the signing of Koundé at a lower personal, let's say, demands and contractual agreement, which I just don't know how that works. But, you know, Fofana, a great signing, youthful signing as well. So if that does happen and materialise for Chelsea, that'll be really interesting. But again, if he doesn't move over to Chelsea, that's a very good opportunity for him to re-embed himself in terms of like Leicester, and then for them to kickstart hopefully a good season. You know, they haven't made any signings compared to everyone else within like the Premier League, Arsenal being the front runners with, you know, the amount of money that they've spent in this summer. But Leicester, unfortunately, they haven't made any sort of, let's say, monetary value, but they are looking at selling, unfortunately, some key players. You know, you've got the likes of Schmeichel, that's agreed terms with like Nice in France, the club. He's been at Leicester City now for over 11 years, and he's done so much for them. You know, he's won the Premier League as well, which was an underdog story, like truly an underdog story, you know, with Ranieri when he was the coach down there. they've always had some really amazing, let's say, owners. You know, these owners that they have, it's just unfortunate as well, the incident that happened with them with the helicopter crash. And it's just saddening as well around the entire atmosphere of the club, because they were doing so much for the supporters, especially over the time that they were winning, or they won the Premier League. The owners were, you know, giving free merchandise as well as free gifts, you know, to every single supporter that was coming over to the games as such. So it was just a really good gesture, you know, from the owners to the fans of what they have accomplished and what they are doing. And, you know, now it's down with the son, and again he's hoping that he could, you know, retain that, you know, legacy that his father as well as, you know, the owners had done for the club at Leicester. And, you know, Schmeichel being such a key player, it's just going to be sad to see him leave. You know, with the bond that he had with the owners as well was just so key. So, you know, Schmeichel, great player, but, you know, now he's at an age where he's around 35. His form did dip quite a lot last season, which is just really bad to see. But again, it's the age that he's at. You know, he's still the club captain, same with Denmark as well. But, you know, a move to Nice will be, you know, an interesting one for him as he goes and closes off his latter, you know, career. But again, we just don't know who Leicester are going to be signing now in that goalkeeping position. They do have Danny Ward, who has come from like Liverpool, for example, who was always a good prospect as a goalkeeper when he was playing. Even the number of games that he was playing, he was making some decent saves. So now I think let's see what happens with the goalkeeper scenario for Leicester City. But, you know, as mentioned, you know, you've got the likes of James Justin, who was called up to the international scene for England as well recently. You've got Johnny Evans, who's an experienced centre-back overall. You've got Pereira, who was fantastic on the right wing-back position for Leicester when they did sign him. You know, now, unfortunately, he was injured for such a long time, so let's see how he does embed back into the role. And then, of course, you got Ndidi, who's always been a great, let's say, defensive midfielder, and he was a massive part of, you know, the integral, let's say, system that Leicester City operate within the team flow. And of course, now you got the likes of Tielemans being rumoured to leave. He's a great prospect overall. He was always a wonder kid in the youth days, and I was always surprised that Leicester City acquired him. That was a very surprising acquisition. So, you know, he's been rumoured to go to the likes of Manchester United or even any other clubs. You know, he is a Belgium #1, you know, midfielder, first team player. So, you know, for him, he wants to retain that, you know, European consistency, because, of course, with Leicester City being 8th last season, they did miss out on the, you know, the European football for this season. So their transfer budget isn't going to be that high, you know, so it's going to be interesting to see what Brendan Rodgers does. But of course, the style that Brendan has always embedded has been great for Leicester City, but maybe he needs to change it up a bit, you know, within their last competitions that they had. You know, the Carabao Cup, they did lose out last season in the quarterfinals. You got the Europa League, they lost that in the group stages, but of course, for some reason, I don't know how they got this setup done in Europa, where they got a Conference League now. They did progress within the Conference League all the way towards the semi-finals, where they did lose and get knocked out. You know, within the FA Cup, they got knocked out in the 4th round. And then again, the Premier League 8th position. So, a very surprising, let's say, performing season for Leicester. But again, it was down to the injuries that they had and the setbacks based on that. Because the prior 2 seasons, you know, 2019 to 2020 and also 2020 to 2021, back-to-back they were 5th positioned in the Premier League. So, you know, they've got the capability, but you got the likes of like Newcastle, West Ham doing very well, Manchester United purchasing some individual key players for their team as well. So let's see what happens with Leicester, but again, it depends on who they sign, and they've got now an aged team. Vardy can't be over-relied on, especially the physicality within the league, as well as other players within the side as well. I think they do need to make more of a squad acquisitions just for like the depth in the squad. If there are any injuries, of course they could cover and work around that, but no, I don't see them getting European football unfortunately this year again. I think Newcastle will pip them for that. I think they'll be around the 8th or the 9th position. That's just my honest review, and then Brendan Rodgers would look elsewhere, and yeah, I think he'll leave at the end of this season. But yeah, guys, just let me know your thoughts on Leicester and where you think that they're going to be positioned, and just general talks about Leicester City and what your thoughts are around them. But we're coming to the end of the video. I do appreciate your time as always, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, please do feel free to like and subscribe if you are brand new, and those that are old and gold, thank you so much for all your support as always. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on tomorrow's video. Take care, and bye-bye.
The danger here as he runs at them.